Welcome into the Danny Britt Show live from BowTie Barbecue here in Savannah. Christian Gokel alongside the head football coach for your cadets, Danny Britt. And before we dive into the show, I know a whole lot of fans from BC spread out all over the country, and I know a whole lot of people, high school football fans all over the country, disrupted this past week with Hurricane Helene coming through. But more than that, people whose homes were lost and are facing a whole lot of difficulties right now. We just want to send our thoughts and prayers out to everybody in the Southeast. I know my family hails from that West Virginia region on one side, and a bunch of tough, hardy people going through some really tough stuff right now. So just want to send our thoughts and prayers from Savannah, Georgia, all the way up the coast to everybody going through that. But with that in mind, one thing that kind of brings some sense of normalcy is getting out on the field. Community comes together on a Friday night to watch some football. And, Coach, after another unexpected bye week, we're back to that, heading up the road to Warner Robins, a historic football site there with the MAC going on up there. But just it's been one of those years, man, going into region play, and you just don't know when you're actually going to be able to play.
Yeah, it's difficult, certainly, and certainly, again, like you just said, we thoughts and prayers of so many people, so much devastation, and thankful that we get to worry about something as silly as football for a little bit. You know what I mean? And certainly, you're right. It brings us together, but for us, it's been a little bit of difficulty trying to figure out when we could practice, how we would practice, and then you got some guys who were dealing with trying to help clean up, couldn't get there for one time at practice. People just could not get there. People without power for multiple days. So it is good to get to a little bit of normalcy here.
And Coach, not to get too philosophical with you here on a Wednesday afternoon, but I know I've heard you speak in locker rooms after state championship wins or after that final loss of the season when you don't win. And it's high school football and football in general, I think, is still very important in and around our communities because it builds strong young men. Right. And when it came to kind of rebuilding after situations like this, you need people who are able to deal with difficult things and go do hard work that needs to be done. Like I said, after the state championships, I've heard you say, hey, kind of carry this with you for the rest of your life because it's you accomplish something you put your mind to. And when those guys are 30, 40, 50, and they're in their professional jobs, the foundation that you build on a practice field can kind of translate to life.
And that's what we want to do. I was talking to a young man who's just transferring over to BC now. And, I was explaining that to him today. I said, you're going to get to know me out on the field, and out on the field, I may be we'll say not as nice of a person.
Sure.
But, man, if you need anything, come talk to me. I'll close the door. We'll talk about whatever. I'll help you in any way I can. I do believe it's my calling, to work with these young people. When I'm going to stand before God one day, he's not going to talk to me about how many wins and losses I had. He's going to talk to me about the young people he put in front of me, and did I lead them in a direction toward him, and did I build them to be, in this case, young men of character. And that's what we want to do. I believe that's what BC still does. I believe we're building young people who can fight, who can, when it's time to go help their parents clean up their yard, that they get up, go do that. When it's time to, protect their mothers, they'll do that. Just be young men. And I believe that's what we're helping to build here.
With that in mind, we are going to talk about wins and losses today, Coach, because we're finally back.
Right.
Been able to play 4 games this season, but a lot of disruptions in and around the schedule caused by weather. And I know Ware County dealing with a lot of destruction, just like a lot of middle Georgia is right now. So I guess we have kind of news. I don't know if it's breaking news, but news with the GHSA pushing the playoffs back a week. We have kind of confirmed when we're going to be able to play that Ware County game.
Yeah, so it will be, I believe it's November 8th, I believe is the date. But yeah, so we'll have 4 games. We'll have, good Lord willing, we'll have 4 games. Then we'll have an open week. And then the next week, which would have been the first round of playoffs, will be the Ware County game. And all the regions will finish up their games and then move on into the playoffs. That's certainly better than people trying to play 2 and 3 games in an 8-day period.
Sure.
That's not good for anybody.
I know last week we were potentially looking at playing Ware County 2 days ago on Monday, and then flipping around and traveling up to Warner Robins for that one. But as things sit, kind of another enforced bye week, Coach. I know it was a lot of hurry up and wait for you guys as a program. Initially thought you were going to play on Friday. We saw the storm coming through. I think really probably Thursday was when all that stuff started getting pushed back. Then we see the devastation that comes through, potentially going to try to play that on Monday. And then just where I know down there, they're still trying to get power back onto a lot of places. So that obviously was not going to be able to happen. What's this past 4 or 5 days been like for you guys as a program?
Yeah, it was a lot because we were talking and, early last week and noticing, hey, this storm is coming, and talking with Coach Strickland. We even talked about possibly playing on Wednesday, which is what Warner Robins and Wayne did. But honestly, Coach Strickland, they had an active shooter type situation down in Ware, so he didn't get to do anything on Monday, so he wasn't comfortable with that. By the time we even discussed further, we said, okay, it looks like we're going to have to push it to Monday. So we talked to the boys. We practiced, Wednesday, and we're going to practice Thursday. The weather got bad pretty quick, and our administration decided to send everybody home. So I got a quick meeting with them and just said, hey, listen out, for when we'll practice on Friday. And we did have a practice on Friday. A lot of the kids were there. Obviously, some just could not get there. They didn't have power. I mean, some kids had texted me they couldn't get out of their neighborhood. And honestly, I didn't get the text till, 5 and 6 hours later,
right.
And because there's so much, which we all understood. So we practiced a little bit on Friday, talking to Ware, realized that we were not going to be able to play on Monday. So we just kind of went ahead at that point after Friday and as a staff and started working on Warner Robins.
And then obviously this week, people struggling to get power back. What's Monday, Tuesday, and now Wednesday looked like for you guys practice-wise?
Yeah, we didn't have school, so we practiced at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Didn't have power on Monday, and most of the time on Tuesday. By the time we got out there, we had power yesterday. So it was a little bit difficult. We had most everybody there. A few people were late, because traveling was hard, but we had most everybody there, practicing, and so it was good. They made the effort to get there and do what they're supposed to do, and so we got pretty good days in Monday and Tuesday, and we expect to have a really good one today.
And there's never going to be a season when you're coaching or playing in South Georgia that's just from week 1 to week 10 perfectly normal.
No,
and that's kind of what we're dealing with again this year. But does this kind of feel like the most fragmented season, or one of the most fragmented you've had?
It is, for all kind of different reasons. Then we're the whole Ohio situation really changed things, and then now, so this is one of the most. But I mean, hey, we've had it before. Yeah. We've had. I was telling you, we were talking about it last week. Not too long ago, I guess it was 16 maybe. We had a hurricane come through, and ended up practicing one day and going to Toombs and playing them. I remember Tyleek Collins went off for like 230 in rushing. We've done it before. We've had these situations, and we'll have them again. It's just the way it is, unfortunately.
And now going back to the football field itself, I know one of the main things we talked about and kind of dove into last week during the show was the offense really, I thought, kind of found some identity. I think first 3 weeks there were some big plays that got hit by really big players, but for the rest of it, it kind of felt clunky. There wasn't really a rhythm to it. Last week, going a lot more towards the RPO game, it felt like Stephen Cannon found his rhythm a little bit. You said after the game, maybe not his best game, but then going back and watching the tape, you're like, well, he had a really good game.
Right.
But just with that RPO game developing, how have you seen that improve in practice, and do you think that's kind of the identity of this offense going forward?
Yeah, it can be. Definitely is a part of, I guess, what everybody's pretty much doing now. But yeah, that can definitely be a part of it, and there's some rhythm in that, right? There's some rhythm in how that plays out and how that gets you involved, and that's fine. That's every year, that's kind of what you're doing. We're a multiple offense, so you're kind of looking for what is your identity, what is your best area of attack, and Stephen found some rhythm, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
And how do you find balance? I know in that game you had a lot of guys with really big plays, and you're starting to move a Mekhi Williams more to the offensive side of the ball, let him get some more snaps over there. You have Bubba Frazier, who I think is kind of the heartbeat of this offense right now. We're really excited about Stanley Smart. There's a number of other guys on offense that you want to get the ball to as well. I know Coach DePhillips, usually that's a problem that he handles very well, having a lot of talented guys. But just as a football coach, how do you kind of come up with the distribution of the ball throughout the week?
It is difficult sometimes to get them all in, and it's something we put a lot of thought in, and how we run practice, because you got Mekhi and JoJo Sutton, who were wanting to get involved offensively, but they're starting roles on defense. So, we have to adjust practice so that they can get involved in both, and obviously get all of their reps defensively, but getting over and getting the needed reps and on offense. So it's just something we have to continuously be talking about, and eventually it becomes somewhat fluid. Coach DePhillips does a great job with designing and organizing that, and making sure that Bubba's going to get his touches in ways that are we put him in a great situation, and then each player after that does the same. So he does a great job with it, and this is year 3, and we are sitting right at 50-50 run pass, and that's what he wants to be.
And I know one of the things you can't simulate is game snaps, and I think that's what made Bryce Baker and Wilkes Albert, guys like that, just such phenomenal players in their junior and senior year. Is by the time they were juniors, I think the stat was they had played 29 or 30 games,
right?
Because both those guys played from their first game as a freshman all the way through. They were just those kinds of players. Looking at this roster, it's a little bit different. You have a bunch of guys stepping into roles for the first time this year. How much improvement have you seen from them from week 1 to now? Because I think that might be the most drastic.
Definitely there has been that improvement, and you're right. There was going to be, because they just haven't played a ton.
Right.
And so there will be continuous improvement. There should be from all of these guys, because they just haven't played a whole lot of football. Certainly the skill guys that you were talking about is just Bubba's played the most, but I mean, really not that much.
I think he played like 58 games in his high school career, which is just incredible.
Yep. But
Bryce, excuse me.
Yeah, Bryce. Yeah. But Bubba, has probably played the most of this group, but he's still just a junior. So, we'll continue to get better, I think, in that aspect.
And now kind of heading into region play, just throughout all your years, the formula has always kind of been the same. You have the first half of the year, which is going to be the out of region games, and then you fill the back end, whether that's 5, 6, 4, just depending on how many people you have in your region. And this is where you got to kind of push all the chips to the table, and every game is a playoff game, which I think is one of the unique, beautiful things about high school football. Do you kind of notice a shift in attitude and intensity as you start to dive into region play?
I think we would say yes last week, because we were playing Ware. I mean, there's already a little bit of rivalry with Ware, and okay, it's getting real. I guess this week's been odd, just because of everything going on. But there has to be, and that's what I keep telling them, that there is no excuses, and everybody's coming. You can tell they're coming to practice every day with an excuse. Well, I've got this, I don't have power, and I'm like, yeah, and all of y'all slept till noon today. I mean, come on, man, just let's get real, let's get right, and there are no excuses. We're going to win this football game. We got to win this football game. So. There is a different level. It's just been so odd this week with the scenario. I'm excited today because we have been in school. We are in school right now, and then when we go out there today, hopefully there's a little more rhythm into what we got.
Is that where you kind of got to lean on the upperclassmen, the guys who have played like a third Scroggins? Because again, you can say things until you're blue in the face, but eventually when they hear something from adults over and over and over again, it can become a little numb, and you just don't really react to it. But the reality is, and again, guys like third and the rest of these upperclassmen know this is do or die time. You have to win these football games.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, you do rely on them to say, step up and say, hey, here we go. This is it. And this is it for me. Let's go make it happen.
Again, coming up on region play, and you look kind of around the region here, Coach. And I know we've spoken about Wayne County kind of struggling a little bit this season there, but the rest of this unit, even New Hampstead, who has struggled to win football games, I think their quarterback just set the Georgia State passing record in a game of 624 yards in a game. Doesn't look like there's an easy game coming up on the schedule.
Right. No, there's no easy game, and we knew this all the way back in February. So there is no easy game. We're going to have to battle every time, and we know this, and so it shouldn't be a shock to anybody.
And so we'll finally kick off that region play coming up Friday at Warner Robins. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, preview the game. First region matchup of the year for the Cadets right after this.
Christian, after a day of the hottest sports in town, sometimes you just gotta unwind. Yeah, Kevin, and the perfect place to do it, Cool Vibes Pizza and Wings.
That's because Cool Vibes offers delicious pizza, wings, sandwiches, and salads, all with a Jamaican Caribbean island twist.
And the atmosphere is 100% kicked back. No worries, man.
Plus, they're the home of the Oxtail Pizza.
Cool Vibes Pizza, 4501 Montgomery Street, Savannah. That's coolvibespizza.com. Cool with a K.
Come on and unwind at Cool Vibes.
Ace Hardware is celebrating 100 years of helpful, and Rinkin Ace Hardware is your locally owned hometown Ace Hardware at 591 South Columbia Avenue in Rinkin, Georgia. From A to Z, they've got it all to help you get things done. Rinkin Ace Hardware is a proud BC sponsor.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
At Benedictine alumni-owned Stacked Firewood Delivery, we're all about the best premium firewood, conveniently delivered in manageable stacks at the right price. We're talking kiln-dried, pest-free firewood. You see, our custom stack is equal to about 10 fires. Choose oak, cherry, hickory, or mixed hardwoods. Stacked Firewood Delivery. Go to stackedwood.com. That's stackedwood.com. BC Brothers Moving is Savannah's most trusted moving service. From residential to commercial to packing supplies, BC Brothers does it all. Let BC Brothers' energetic, trustworthy team wrap it, pack it, and move it for you. Check out BC Brothers online at bcbrothersmoving.com or give them a like on Facebook. BowTie Barbecue has always been a work of passion. It takes time, skill, and a blend of perfect temperature, wood, smoke, and meats. We just took it up a notch. Taste the passion. BowTie Barbecue, 6724 Waters Avenue, Savannah.
Welcome back into the Danny Britt Show, live from BowTie Barbecue here in the heart of Savannah. And, Coach, the storm has wreaked some havoc this week.
Yes, we try to be prepared for whatever comes our way. Abel's Iron On Moore and Associates does the same for their clients. So when it comes to financial preparation, contact Abel's Iron On Moore and Associates to make sure you are prepared for whatever surprises life throws your way.
And, Coach, you guys taking on the 5-1 Warner Robin Demons, and it's a historic football program, Coach. A lot of great players have come out of there. Just that whole region in and of itself produces really talented football players. I know Buck Bellew, the famous Georgia national champion quarterback from that 1980 season, comes from Warner Robins. It's a football town, and now you have to go on the road and play a team that's only lost came at Lee County, a top 15 team nationally there. So big challenge coming up. Yeah,
definitely a big challenge. They are a very, very talented football team. A lot of big guys, a lot of guys that can run, just a lot of good looking football players. So, going to be a major challenge for us. Going into, like you said, just a great area for South Georgia football. A lot of history there, and so we're excited. We're ready to go. I don't know the kids understand what it is and the history behind Warner Robins and all of that, but they can see the film and see that they're very good. So we better be buckled up and ready to go play.
I was going to say, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing that maybe they're just not aware of the mystique and they can just go in and play, or is do you need to kind of have that healthy respect for the team you're going to play?
I don't know. I tell you what, man, dealing with young people is sometimes you just do the best you can.
Sure.
And you don't really understand. I think they understand that they've been very good. They don't quite understand the mystique, as you say, and even though we're trying to explain it to them, it's going to be a cool environment. And I try to, like we were talking last week, I try to tell them to let that fuel you. When you go into somebody else's environment and they're rooting against you, let it fuel you, man, and just enjoy it. So hopefully it will.
I know we harp on this over and over again, but this is the reason why you go play at Buford is when you go play Warner Robins, this is a community that shows up on Friday nights for the football game. So it's going to be loud. Might be louder than a Buford game just because, listen, I'm not trying to say anything, but South Georgia football versus North Atlanta football, it could be a little bit different there just in terms of that community support and how, I guess, hostile that environment will be. But just the experience you have going to play at Buford, executing there, going into this one just has to be invaluable.
It does. And I that's why we play those games and, get ready and make it the best we can be. And hopefully it feels like 8 months ago that we played that Buford game,
right.
but yeah, hopefully it fuels us and allows us to be the best we can be.
Hey, Coach, I want to start on the defensive side of the ball for the Demons there. Isaiah Gibson is just an all-world outside linebacker, edge player. He can put his hand in the dirt. He can stand up. 5-star, number 1 ranked edge rusher in America, which, as you mentioned, is not the first time you guys have gone up against that in the past few years.
Right.
Committed to the University of Georgia, listed at 6'4", 245. How do you go about game planning against a talent like that?
Yeah, you got to make sure that you're aware where he's at, and he's a tremendous player, but he's not the only good player they have.
Sure.
And sometimes you get so caught up in that you forget the other guys, and we can't do that. But we do have to know where he's at and be able to account for him at all times.
And what's the balance like going into that? Because if you, like you mentioned, if you skew too much of your offense to that one person, there's 10 other really talented people out there. Do you just try to go heads up, or are you adding a running back or tight end to kind of chip a guy?
No, you'll do both, and we'll go heads up some, and then but we will have him accounted for, by using some other guys as well, certainly.
I think the best way to kind of neutralize people like that, from my layman's terms, run at them and stay out of 3rd and long.
Yep. Well, staying out of 3rd and long is always good. But yeah, running at them, a lot of times those guys, one, they're not used to it. People will run away from them. And so when you're running at them and so that is something that definitely, is a process.
And again, the style of offense you guys have against their style of defense, if you had to guess, what kind of packages are you going to see from them? What kind of coverage you're going to have to go out there and battle against?
Yeah, well, we're going to see a number of different things from them. A few different type coverages. They are very athletic. They can man up on us for sure. So we'll see that, and we'll see them bring in some people, and then of course they'll just let their athletes be athletes too, and play some base and try to be better than us.
And as you guys know from having a guy like third on your defensive end position, it helps because you can drop 7 guys back in coverage a lot of time and just send 3 or 4 guys. What does that present offensively as a challenge for you guys?
Yeah, it definitely does, because there's no holes.
Right.
You got the people back there. There's no holes to throw at because they're only having to rush their main people. So it definitely is awesome when you can do it defensively and just say, hey, we're not having to send a backer in a blitz or a safety in a blitz. We can drop everybody and be sound.
And flipping over to the offensive side of the ball for the Demons there, who are some guys that you guys have kind of highlighted through your study that you guys are really going to have to pay attention to on Friday?
Quarterback is a very, very good athlete, big kid, can run well, strong arm. They're about 70%, just under 70% run. Sure. And, they do a number of different things well. They really like to try to get the ball in the direction of 0. And he's a big kid. It's an H-back, can be a receiver, can be a running back type, and can do a number of different things for them. They like to get him on the edge blocking with their RPO stuff, get him out there on the edge and blocking a smaller DB and letting their guys run. So a number of guys that they're good. They have a good offensive line, big, long, rangy guys that can play and can move pretty well. A lot of RPOs, so basic RPOs type scheme that we're used to seeing.
And usually when you hear Houston County, and just everything that goes into that, usually going to be some big offensive lineman that you're going to have to deal with. But I thought it was cool that you mentioned the H-back. It's not something you see a ton of in high school football anymore. Usually it's running back and 3 receivers and a tight end, or 4 receivers. But that H-back can put a lot of pressure on safeties and linebackers there playing all those multiple spots.
Well, and that's the thing, especially H-backs that can run. And they have 2. They have 0 and 18 that they'll play as what I'm calling an H-back. They'll also get it, and it can be the number 3 receiver.
Yeah.
So they do a number of different things with those guys, and they can move them all around. So it does put a lot of pressure on the defense.
I don't know if you remember Flowers from Oklahoma, like back when Baker Mayfield was there, but that kind of guy reminds me. You got all those fast guys on the outside, and then you have a guy that kind of lines up in the backfield, but he can come across the middle as a tight end. It's just very dangerous. But also with that running quarterback, Coach, as you mentioned, tall, fast, can get to the edge. How important does safety play come when it comes to running that alley and just wrapping up in the open field?
Yeah, we're going to have to definitely, and they're big guys too. They're not small, small people. So, and our safeties aren't exactly the biggest guys. They got good height, but a little thin. So they're going to have to be really sound in the run game, running their alleys, making the tackles, and getting them on the ground.
And obviously the fundamentals are important in every game, but when you're trying to go on the road and beat a really good team in their house, the little things I think get kind of amplified in a game like this. And we haven't talked about it a ton this season, but I'm just curious, money down, third down, both offensive and defensively. Obviously, it's going to be big on Friday night, but just through the season as a whole, how do you feel like your team has executed on those downs?
Yeah, I feel like we've done pretty well there. Other than the first game, of course, but we've done well in third down and getting off the field, and in big moments, we've come up with some pretty good plays. Even fourth down situations, we've come up with some stops, and so I feel like we've done pretty well in that regard.
I know we talk about it all the time. Another thing that helps win on the road, running the football. Stanley Smart felt like he had his best game, and I know you were joking with him about not scoring a touchdown yet,
right.
But 70-plus yards on 12 carries is going to get the job done a lot of times. How big is he going to be on Friday night, just able to pick up? It doesn't have to be a touchdown, but 4 or 5 yards at a time.
Yeah, he's going to be massive. We've got to have him, lowering that shoulder, getting those 4 or 5 yards every single time. And like I said, eventually it's going to break. He's going to come up with some big runs and get in the end zone. But yeah, he's got to continue, and he's done a good job with that. Certainly as of late. So, we expect him to continue to do that.
And, Coach, if you had to identify just the areas where you and your coach are talking on the whiteboard, this is what we have to do right if we're going to win, what would those be?
Yeah, I think, one, we're going to have to tackle well and certainly tackle the quarterback, get him on the ground. Can't let him, again, big body, very athletic. So that, I think, offensively, what we just said, we're going to have to just methodically at times move the ball. We can't just have the big plays.
Sure.
As you mentioned, we bust a big play, which we'd love to have those too, but we're going to have to methodically move the ball. We're going to have to get the runs, the 4 and 5 yard runs. We're going to have to hit the short passes to get that first down.
And again, coming up on y'all's first region game of the year, they're already 1-0 in the region play. Beat Wayne this past Wednesday. Just went ahead and got that in before the storm came through. But this is a team that's played 6 football games already versus the 4 that you've played. Do you feel like that's an advantage on their side?
Oh, it's definitely an advantage. And it's unfortunate that we're sitting here in October and only played 4 games, but that is what it is. We played some really good teams, so we feel like we're okay. But yeah, there's a little bit of advantage to have those 6 games in.
And obviously, big games left on the season. Perry coming up, Ware County coming up later in the year, final game of the season now. But whoever wins this matchup going to be in that driver's seat to take the region here. Right. So a massive game coming up on Friday, and we'll have the call. You'll be able to watch it live on watchbcsports.com. But obviously, we encourage everybody to get up to Houston County, go watch that game there at the MAC. Just again, if you're a high school football fan, that's got to be one of those things you're trying to check off. You have to go watch a game in that stadium because it's one of those meccas of high school football in the state.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a great environment. It's a beautiful stadium, beautiful area. So if you can, come out and watch us and support us and go Cadets.
I know we got some potential storms brewing in the Atlantic right now, so we just need everybody to say prayers and just asking God, keep them away so we can play the remainder of the schedule. We don't need any more, and I know folks on the coast certainly don't need any more as well. So we'll be praying for a clean weather for the rest of the season, and as we dive into region play, some healthy bodies for the Cadets and potentially some wins.
I hope so. Think we will. We've got a really, really tough schedule, but we're excited about it.
This is what all those big games have been leading up to. Region play coming up Friday night. Kevin Thomas will be on the call. For Coach Britt, I'm Christian Gokel. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us.
Thank you.